Gacha games spawning other media is always interesting. Azure Lane started as a mobile game of just getting ship girls, and it turned into an anime and even got a fun console game where you could fight in arena battles and even marry the ship girl of your choice. A similar situation happened with Alice Gear. Its mobile game isn't available in English, yet it spawned a sort of anime adaptation, along with a console game with, you guessed it, arena battles. This is something I received a long while back as a review code, but now we're ready to dive in. Here is my review of Alice Gear CS for the Nintendo Switch. This game takes place in the Alice Gear universe, where an alien invasion caused humanity to flee the planet aboard ships and live inside Earth-like environments within those ships. There, they developed gear, specialized robotic parts for trained actresses to use to fend off the alien invaders in the hope of one day reclaiming planet Earth. You play as a commander when a special tournament is being held as a simulation to test actress versus actress combat. You follow the actress of your choice as she fights through the tournament aiming to take the prize. The story overall is cute. You get a few scenes with your chosen playable character, and while the game does absolutely nothing to explain to you who these people are outside of their hobby profile, they do retain traits from said profiles along with the mains from the anime series acting mostly like they do in that series. Though I do have a couple nitpicks, one is fairly small. For those that care about the continuity of the overall franchise, you'll find the story's concept a bit head-scratching, as the very idea of actress versus actress combat is something touched on in the anime's final 2 episodes, and not in a good way. You could write it off as being fine because it's all a simulation, and it's clearly that way for the sake of the game, but still a bit head-scratching. Then there's the fact that Yatsuyu is supposedly just starting as an actress, which would make this take place before the anime, and the attempts to put it into a continuity just gets more confusing the more you think about it. But that's a nitpick. My main issue here is that I don't really feel like I got to know the girls all that well over the story mode. You do get a few cutscenes with them to show their personality traits, and one sort of heartfelt scene with their group, but overall, I didn't really feel like I knew much about them at all. I felt I got closer to them while watching the short anime series, and that was mostly slice of life stuff that didn't have anything to do with the franchise's actual sci-fi plot. When it comes to gameplay, this is an arena battle game with customization and light RPG elements thrown in. As you play the game, you'll be customizing your chosen girls with mech gear and weapons, and fighting against others in 3D arena-style combat. The first thing we should talk about is the fact that this game was censored on PlayStation platforms in the West, but it was not on the Nintendo Switch. On PS4, the Ace's costumes were removed for 6 of the characters and one of Rei's costumes was altered. But here on Switch, all of that content is the same as it was in Japan. Now when you play through this game, you can either do story mode, quick play, or multiplayer. In story, you choose one of the 22 playable actresses and you go through their little story campaign in the tournament, going across a grid and customizing as you go along. You can also use quick play for instant arena battles or jump into the multiplayer to fight against other players local or online. Though as with a lot of games, Alice Gear does not have crossplay, so you're limited to other Switch players. That mostly leaves story mode, which is the bulk of the game. When you go through an actress's story, there are cutscenes you get which are unique to her with interactions between you, her, and her chosen friends or teammates, and you're put on a grid of sorts, allowing you to select what you want to do on what day. There are nodes for battles or gaining items like custom parts or costumes for your character without having to spend money to acquire them from the shop. There are normally a couple different tiles for each day, allowing you to move around and decide which path you want to take on the grid, even though many of the major battles will always happen regardless of the path you take. I found it mostly a matter of, oh hey, this path will lead me to a bunch of items that I don't have to buy, let's go do that and save some money. Speaking of, there's also a shop where you can customize your actress. You can buy and equip different weapons, costumes, change the paint color of parts to help match your actress to whatever she's wearing, and add skills to help give you little buffs and enhancements like more health or attack power. I do kind of like the weapon options we have here. Each actress has her own weapon type and unique weapons of that type they can use, but you can buy any weapon type you want and you can equip it to everybody. Yatsuyu starts out with a TR rifle, but you can equip her with a sniper, bazooka, dual pistols. You can modify what they use to suit your playing style. Now let's get into the battles themselves, as that is what most of the nodes in story mode are. This game uses an arena-style flight combat system. You're always locked onto your opponent, similar to games like the Azure Lane Switch game or Toho Sky Arena. Your goal is to eliminate the opponent or opponents. You do this mostly by strafing from side to side and using a few different weapons. You got a normal gun that fires off bullets and 2 shoulder button weapons, one of which is a spread of thin homing missiles and the other is customizable. Some characters have rapid fire bullets that can charge into a single large orb, while others have large rapid fire orbs as a charge and different attacks as the normal attack. And finally, you have a melee weapon, like a sword or a spear. Pretty much all of these can be fired or charged for a powerful charge attack, so you have a decent amount of different types of attacks that you can do. The melee weapons especially feel great to use as they hit with this big cinematic force that just makes you feel like you're doing a lot of damage. And all of this is pretty easy, at least at the start. The enemy AI doesn't do much, so you can pretty much do what you want. But the further you go, the more actresses you have to fight, and you can't just charge in and melee them when they have rapid fire shots pushing you back. It's a matter of dodging, using your boost gauge, and finding good openings. I mean, it's still not that difficult once you get some good weapons, but there is a bit of skill involved to complete one of the story campaigns. This is especially true when you start getting into 3 versus 3 battles. They're technically still 1v1 as far as combat goes, but you and your opponent have 3 character teams that you can switch out anytime you wish. Now, once you finish a mission in the story mode, you gain money that you can then use in the customization menu shop to buy costumes, parts, weapons, etc. Weapons can help increase the amount of damage you do, and the different parts can modify a bit on how your movement handles. Though I personally just use that as a means of cosmetic, letting the girls have less bulky and more sleek mechanisms around their body. You go through this whole mission process over the course of a couple weeks of in-game days, but it's not really that long, so you can trek through multiple actresses' campaigns without getting into a huge time sink. Overall, I like the system. The game flows well, and while it did feel a bit repetitive and clunky at first, I found it to be a lot of fun once I tinkered with different weapons and learned all of the different types of regular and charged attacks you could do. That brings us to content and length. You're not going to be spending that long with this game, at least on a single character. My first trek through the game was on Mai's campaign on stream a while back, and that was about an hour and a half from start to finish. Considering there are 22 actresses available, 3 of which do not unlock until you beat the game once, you're going to get at least a few hours of story, assuming you only choose your favorite character and then go again with one of the unlockables. Next we have presentation, which is pretty good overall. Some of the environments do look a little bland, at least at the beginning of the game, but the actual graphics are smooth and the characters look good. Not that many jagged edges around. And the performance is fantastic. Short load times and the actual combat gameplay is a smooth 60 frames per second in both docked and handheld modes. Something I found rather surprising, but I'm here for it. That's all I have to say for performance, so let's go into battery life. On the original and light models, Alice Gear will get about 3 to 4 hours, while the V2 and OLED models get 5.5 to 7 hours. In conclusion, Alice Gear comes to the Switch with fast-paced and superbly optimized combat, offering 3D arena fights with your favorite actresses from the franchise. Now, the downside, the story is a bit light, giving you small interactions and not letting you really get to know these characters, which seems to be a trend with the media about Alice Gear that's available in English. It's a fun little arena fighter and plays great on the Switch, just don't expect to be an expert on fighting aliens with gear-equipped girls by the time it's over. Reviews to Go rates Alice Gear CS for the Nintendo Switch an 8.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.